Maid of the Common. A beautiful young maid lived with her mother in a run-down hovel on Yarningale Common. All the local lads used to hang around the common trying to catch her eye, but the young maid had her eye on only one lad. He lived on the canal at Preston Bagot with his father. The young man was keen to marry the maid, but it soon became obvious she wanted a new life with pretty things and the money to buy them. Unfortunately, the young man was too poor to give her the life she wanted. The young maid wanted him to move to Birmingham to make his fortune, but he was reluctant to leave his father, so they decided to part company. The young man was heartbroken, and to make matters worse, a short time later, he heard she was to marry a more wealthy man. Then suddenly his father died, and he was left alone in the hut, and he could not bear the solitude, so he decided to go to Coventry. The last night in his hut, he was preparing to pack his few belongings and tools when there came a knock at the door. There stood out in the icy winter's night was the maid in a torn white silk wedding dress. She explained through sobs that her fiancé had left her and fled to Australia. The maid begged for the young man to take her back after she realised how wrong she had been, but he said no. "I have sold up and it's too late," he told her. The girl then fled into the freezing night with a little regret. He rushed out to see if he could stop her, but she had vanished. The young man went to Coventry and made his fortune, and 10 years later he decided to return to his former home. As the weather was so bad, he got disorientated and struggled to find the hut. Then suddenly he saw a shape form on the canal bank that was shimmering white, and heard a voice say, "Follow me and you will be safe now." And he suddenly recognised the voice as his old love. He turned to open the door of the hut and turned back, and she was gone, apart from a scrap of white silk hanging off a bush. Then he heard a splash beneath the lock gates and suddenly realised what had become of the young maiden after all that time ago. She had slipped into the lock and went to her watery grave.